Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel for another episode of my Squishy Makeover series, where today I am continuing this month-long project slash series that I started, where I'm going to be making two full rainbow sets of squishies. The first six, which were the first two videos of this month, I did a more bright and bold rainbow set, and today I am starting with the pastel rainbow set, specifically with the warm colors. As you can see here, I have the same exact squishy as the red squishy that I did in the beginning of this month, and this is going to be the pastel version. It's little like partner, mate, or whatever, and it's the same for the orange as well. But unfortunately, when I was buying these squishies, they all came in like boxes of 4, and I couldn't perfectly match them all up, unfortunately. So there was only one of these dog squishies, and the only other extra that didn't have a partner was this whale. So these two ended up being the yellow pair. But before anything, like always, I sanded and trimmed up the edges of the squishy. And I also did a little bit of repairing, specifically on the narwhal. His horn felt like it was about to come off, so I fixed it with some puffy paint and then filled up some holes that the fox and panda had. Nothing like major, just some small adjustments. And then I went in with a big base coat of white all over the 3 squishies. I'm not going to show all the coats because I think I did like 3 or 4 coats on either side, because it was just genuinely so hard to cover up the original color. And since I am using pastel colors, a base coat is absolutely necessary. And as always, I am using fabric paints for these entire projects when it comes to squishies. Once that was done, you can see the base coat. The eyes are still kind of peeking through, but since that's all going to be filled in with black anyway, this is good enough to continue. And I'm starting with the pink squishy, which is technically the red squishy, but the pastel version of red is pink, so yeah. And then I'm moving on with the orange, which again is for the fox, which is basically the basic fox color, but I still feel like it looks really cute. And then the narwhal is the pastel yellow. And like always, yellow is always such a struggle for me. I don't know what it is with me and yellow, but all of my paints are super transparent and they just take forever to build an opaque color. But as you can see here, I finally got in after many coats. I think the orange was less, but the pink and yellow were driving me insane with how many coats I had to do. But once the base coat was done of the main color of each of the squishies, I went in with the darker versions, which is what I used for the first set as the entirety of them, to do the detail work for the squishies. And periodically I went back and would grab and look at the original darker versions of these squishies, just so that they would look similar but not exactly the same, because they are supposed to be pairs. So like the bolder, brighter orange is supposed to be a pair, a couple with the pastel version. So I wanted them to be similar but not exactly the same. And so I added some similar details, but I also added different details for each of them. Honestly, the most different one is the red and the pink, because, I mean, they're not too similar. I feel like the oranges and somewhat with the yellow, they kind of look to be the same because the difference isn't that dramatic, especially in comparison to the red and the pink. Honestly, I was very excited to start with the pastels. Um, with these 3 pastel squishies that I did, I added blush to all 3 of their cheeks, which I didn't do for the original 6 set of the bolder rainbow. But I'm not gonna lie, I struggled a lot, especially with the pink. Trying to blend this red into this pastel pink took me forever. I think I tried 3 separate times, and in the end, it's not that noticeable, unfortunately. And then moving on to the yellow squishy, which had caused me a lot of heartache because it was so many coats of yellow. And honestly, if you look at it super closely, there are some spots that aren't fully opaque, but it got to a point where it felt like no matter how many coats I was giving it, it wasn't getting any more opaque. It wasn't really layering up anymore. And so I eventually had to find a stopping point that I was comfortable with. And so here I am now adding in the details on its stomach with the darker yellow, and I also used it to do some blushing under its eyes. And then I did off camera the face details and the eyes off camera because I honestly could not do it while recording because I keep putting my head in the way. And honestly, I love how this pink squishy turned out. I think she looks so cute, especially next to her partner, the red one. I feel like they just make such a cute couple. This fox, I think, as a standalone, might be one of my favorites. It kind of reminds me of the Pokemon Vulpix, and I don't know if that's why I like it so much. Unfortunately, the camera doesn't do a great job at showing the difference in the two oranges, so they kind of look the same, and you can't really even see the plush. But I think they look so cute together. And then the narwhal, for all the complaining I did with the yellow and using the yellow paint, I actually feel like she turned out really cute. She has like a pretty big smile, which wasn't intentional, but I like how it turned out. And although she's a different species than the dog, I think they look cute together. Maybe just as friends, but I think they make a cute pairing. But thank you all so much for watching this video. I really hope you all have been enjoying this series. And hopefully next week will be the end of it and I'll do the last 3 squishies to finish. Bye!